where you will ruin, don't even say anything. Aya, let's go. Kama mapenzi yangeuzwa sokoni ningenunua, na kama dawa japo kwa muda ningekunywa, sababu nimechoka kutafuta Mr. Right. Mimi nimechoka kutafuta Mr. Right. You wapi Mr. Left?
I am here, Mr. Right.
You're supposed to say aha.
Oh, aha.
See,
I thought you asked me where you, Mr. Right.
you got carried away by
I'm
yourself.
like, I am Mr. Right.
Carried away.
How is Kirinyaga actually?
Salama, tunapambana na hali ya maisha kama Wakenya wenzetu. Yes.
Mnasemaje huko, hali ya hewa iko aje?
Hali ya hewa iko salama. We have an issue with the importation of rice. Unajua mchele ya Mwea bado haijaweza kuuzwa kwenye soko. So we're struggling like other Kenyans, like I've said, with the bad policies this government is making. Lakini tunapambana. We live to fight every day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I've seen, regarding that importation of rice, I've seen people calling for, you know, Kenyan farmers, especially from Mwea, Kirinyaga County, to be given the priority to be the importers of the rice that the government is bringing in. What do you think, you as leaders?
I think it's unfortunate because one, if you have a surplus in the market that has not been absorbed, then you cannot now purport to import rice. We know that the government buys maize, so why not buy rice from Mwea farmers? I mean, what is the agenda with importing rice when already there is a surplus from Mwea farmers that has not been absorbed? This government promised to pesa mfukoni. Where will the pesa mfukoni come from if, let's say, the Kirinyaga rice farmer is not able to offset the stock that they have for a period of time?
But the government says the shortage of rice.
I do think that the issue is the control of prices. And we do know that the imported rice is mostly cheap because it is imported from markets where they have a surplus, where perhaps the country produces enough to cater for the population and even exports. So hii ni biashara tu, watu wanaunda tu biashara. And you cannot import rice, and I insist, when what you have produced as a country has not been consumed. Then if the government wants to import rice to balance the prices in the market, let them first offset all the produce from where rice farmers.
Then what's then is the way forward for the farmers, Kirinyaga farmers?
We've written to the CS Agriculture demanding that they buy the rice from where farmers before they allow any importation of rice in Kenya. And let's see what the feedback is. I'm told that the CS is considering it, but you know, igava lazima ungoje uone kama watafanya ama ni siasa tu.
Na wasipofanya, kwa sababu that's also a possibility,
you will see some backlash from the Kirinyaga leaders, because we have, of course, to protect the Mwea rice farmer. Yes.
Okay. Away from Kirinyaga matters, recently we've had demonstrations in the country. There was Sabasaba, there was the June 25th, the commemoration. We saw, of course, there was looting, and the government has really come hard on the looters or the goons that infiltrated the demonstrations. And we are seeing people being charged with the terrorism act. You know, what's your take on that from where you sit?
Have they come hard on the looters, or are they just arresting anybody, you know? Back in the day, when Kina Martha Karua were angling for multi-party democracy, there was this thing called Kamata Kamata, you know, where you just come and let's say in a neighborhood and just pick someone for the reason of being seen that you've arrested someone. You know, what bothers me is that we did see mainstream media, including Citizen, run stories covering police officers giving protection to persons who were armed with rungus. We also did see politicians who are coming out clearly saying that we will be mobilizing goons to come attack the protesters. I haven't seen any of those people charged anywhere. So to me, the people who have been arrested by the police officers and arraigned in courts of law, they're just victims of bad governance and a system that has failed Kenyans, and consistently the Kenyan youths who are being targeted, because as an advocate, majority of those people in the courtrooms are below the age of 23. So it shows you that it is a specific target to a certain generation to communicate a certain message to them.
And as a leader and as a lawyer, you've strongly come out to defend these people, the people who have been arrested and are being charged in court. What's motivating you to do this?
You know, I've always been a pro bono human rights lawyer, even before joining politics. You know, I'm not doing this because I now have a political seat or for political convenience. This is something I did even before I got elected as a county woman member to the National Assembly for Kirinyaga County. So for me, this comes from the oath that I swore and that I took to defend the Constitution of Kenya. When I took or was admitted to the role of advocates, it is just a personal conviction for me. It is something that I wouldn't know how not to do it. It is sort of like in my DNA. Yes.
And by the way, I needed to ask you this. Do you believe the demonstrations were infiltrated by goons?
Yes, I do. I mean, like, for instance, in Kirinyaga on the 25th of June, there was no property damage, there was no looting. But then you look at the shift on Sabasaba and the times that the demonstrations were starting, allegedly, in some localities, even just deep within the county. And of course, you can add 1 + 1 and know that something was not right about it. I feel that there was a need to paint protesters as violent so that the government can set them against the public, so that the public can say, well, we don't want these protests. And we saw the 25th of June 2024 protests. I mean, largely when they began, they were peaceful. But then, of course, there was an agenda to purport them to be violent so that the public can be against them.
You blame the government. You say the government had an agenda. But the government says the goons were organized by some members of the opposition, and you're part of the opposition. What do you have to say about that?
I don't think that's a narrative and a propaganda that they're trying to sell, but I don't think even Kenyans are buying it. I mean, really, if they were, then why haven't we seen the arrest of members of parliament who are saying that they'll be mobilizing goons? Why haven't we seen persons who were allied to the government who are saying that, oh, you know, don't come to Nairobi, we will deal with you pronto? So for me, I think it's just a narrative and a propaganda the government is trying to sell. But even the basic Kenyan knows that's not the truth. You know, even the people that we speak to say that they know that the government is the one that was running things.
But Manyata MP Gitonga Mukunji was arrested in connection with the demonstrations and was taken to court. What do you have to say? And it's actually part of your team.
Gitonga Mukunji is a young member of parliament. He's also the chair KYPA, who's been very vocal on the forefront. I do think the government is just trying to crack down on political dissidents. And you will see when we start the hearings. I want them to be televised and to have live proceedings so that you can see us unpack and break down the government propaganda one by one. I am certain it will fall apart terribly.
Okay.
Yes.
You've been, let's go back to the youth who were arrested and have been arraigned in court or are being held and being charged with the terrorism. You've been at the forefront fighting for these guys. What state are they in from your interaction with them?
They're traumatized, they're terrified. You know, you recall a very public incident where one of the young people was released and within the precincts of the courtroom was rearrested in a very dramatic manner by anti-terror police units. And I do think that even the officers, they really do not want to do this, but then there's pressure on them. And from the mood in the courtrooms, it is very unfortunate that we are branding over 2,000 people, young people for that matter, as terrorists. I mean, when you call a 19-year-old a terrorist, what do you do for their future? What happens to them if they want to travel? I mean, the government is now selling the agenda of Kazi Maju. I mean, you know, those young people and their families are so terrified of even speaking to the media, of even like just going back home. For example, the Makongeni 16 at Thika, they were just picked from within the precincts of the police station. Those are young people who've never even seen the inside of a police station, let alone a police cell. They're being held incommunicado at Kamiti Maximum Prison. So what do you tell these young people? What message are you sending to them? They're being held for more than 20 days. Some are now in for nearly 30 days. It traumatizes them. It takes away from their mere existence. And you know, the government could also achieve the agenda of radicalizing these young people. Because I think you can push someone to an extent that they feel that, well, they've branded me this, so what's there to lose?
Why do you think the government is charging these guys with terrorism? And from your, you know, your experience as a lawyer, what implication does this have on these people that are being charged?
Certainly the reason the government is charging them with terrorism is to communicate, to send a message to fellow Gen Zs. I've given you a strata example that most of these young people are below the age of 23. Over 50% of the young persons arrested. We know Gen Zs right now are between that age of 18 and around 27 years. And we know that the 2024 process was Gen Z led. So what the government seeks to attain with these charges of terrorism is to tell the young people of Kenya that if you have any contrary opinion that does not sit well with the status quo, we will brand you as a terrorist. It tells them that if you come out on the streets to protest for your rights as guaranteed under Article 37, we will brand you a terrorist. So they're just suppressing the youth movement and the youth formation that was largely Gen Z led. What it means for these young people is that it will have future implications for them. Job, employment opportunities. It limits their interaction with the outside world. We know now that, you know, the world is a global village. And it is very unfortunate because it also communicates to investors outside that Kenya is a zone of terrorists. Terrorism is a global crime. It is such a serious offense to charge someone with. And of course, charging them with terrorism, you take them from the vicinity of their families. You pick someone from, let's say, Mawego, because even the Mawego 7 are at Kahawa law courts. You pass all the jurisdictions of the courts and take them to Kahawa law courts, charge them, and then remand them at Kamiti Maximum, accessed by their families. A maximum security prison is very hard to access. You frustrate their families, you frustrate them. And the Prevention of Terrorism Act, you can also make an application to hold them incommunicado for 360 days. That's a year. So that is why Porter, as we call it, is a new government toy that they want to use to deal with the young people. And they're hell-bent on using it. And you will see more young people charged under Porter.
As someone who has been offering pro bono services to these, youth who have been arrested, so far, what can you say has been the progress from your end?
We have managed to have quite a number of young people released on cash bail. We have a team of around fairly young lawyers, around 10 to 20. It fluctuates depending on availability, but we have a core team of at least 15 young lawyers who are committed to that course in various counties, just helping us map out these cases and representing these young people. We've managed to have 74 of them directly catered for under our cash bail fund that has been raised and donated by Kenyans of goodwill. we have also managed to have over 156 youths in general represented in these matters by pro bono lawyers.
Okay, and by the way, you talked about the cash bail fund. You've been crowdfunding for the cash bails. How has that been going on?
Very well, very well actually. I was very I was very concerned when I went to the law courts, and you could see grandparents there just wondering. You've been given a cash bill of Kenya shillings 50,000. They've never even perhaps even seen such an amount in one setup, in a single setting.
Yeah.
In their lifetimes. These are families who are squatters. These are families who are living, some of them, in the slums. So you tell someone to pay 50,000. You tell them that, there's a bond of 1 million Kenya shillings. They don't even own any property that is tangible that they can present to the court. So when I saw that, I figured that I needed to do more beyond offering my pro bono services. And I really want to genuinely thank Kenyans, because we have managed to raise in the first campaign a total of 1.42 million Kenya shillings. And that has offset bail purely for 74 young people. Yes.
And these people, what's the reaction from their, immediate families, the people you've helped to get out of jail?
I think we've shared some of the videos for the families who have spoken out. They're very grateful to Kenyans. They're very, very grateful, because these young people, if Kenyans did not bail them out, they would be in those remand centers like committee and the rest until the conclusion of their matters. Because if the family can't raise bail, unfortunately, then the court is not able to assist any further in any manner. We have also applied for bail review for some of those matters, which were set as high as 200,000, and we've managed at least to have them down to 50,000, 30,000, 20,000, and I really want to thank the Kenyan judiciary for holding forth in regard to that.
What's the end game in all this? Where do you see the end of all this, the terrorism charges? Chief Justice Martha Koome actually, when she visited the police station in Kikuyu that was torched, was it not the police station, the court in Kikuyu that was torched, she said this is terrorism, and I think the government took the coup from there. What's the end game from where you see it? What's the end game on this?
I don't think the government has a shred of evidence, and I've said that I want us to have live proceedings of the hearings, and you will see their stories fall apart, because I do strongly believe that the government sponsored any violence and destruction of property that was seen during the protests. And the persons who were being charged largely are not the people that were perpetuating those heinous crimes. We have seen politically motivated charges. Take for example the DCP National Youth Leader Wanjiku Thega and the Kiambu chapter leader Kawa Njiro, and you will see it fall apart. I don't think that their intention was to achieve convictions. I do think that, and still believe, their intention is to sell, a narrative that these protests are violent, young people will result to violence, and that any Gen Z who comes out on the streets is not coming out for the public good or for the better governance of Kenya. They just want to make sure that they derail the Gen Z agenda that we know was so powerful in 2024 that the president declined to assent to the finance bill.
All right, away from the Gen Z protests and everything in between, you are a very young leader. How is it being one of the youngest, leaders in Parliament?
It's hard. It's hard. Parliament is a place that's very, very strange, I'd say. From the outside, you would think of it very differently than from the inside. It's very easy to just get lost and, lose traction of the person that you are and what you actually came to do, or why you got elected in the first place. And I always say that every day in Parliament, you just really have to refuse to shake the hand of the devil. That is how tempting it is.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's just so easy to get very corrupted, morally, ethically, you know, to just lose your integrity. It is the norm. It is the mode of operation, basically.
Okay.
So you have to like do the the reverse of it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to like decline every day.
Yeah.
You know, to join that choir.
Have you encountered corruption in Parliament since you joined?
Oh yeah, several instances. But like I've said, that it is an invitation that you have to decline, and it is an invitation that is open every day. You just really have to decide what kind of leader you want to be, and you have to remember what really informed you to go to Parliament. Otherwise, it's very easy to just get lost in the noise and become like the politicians that perhaps I used to detest when I was out of Parliament.
Yeah. And do you feel like young people in Kenya are ready for leadership positions?
I tell young people that it's not age, you know, because we've seen young people who have, like I've said, just joined the status quo. It's not age, it has to be, you have to have deep foundations of integrity. You know, Parliament is not for people who will be easily corrupted. It's not for people who want to join the status quo. And if the intention is to serve, you have to always remember that. Because I think sometimes people see the flashy cars, the lifestyle, the salary, and get enticed by it. So it is not about age for me. And I encourage as many young people to vie, but they must also vie for the right reason. Because if you vie for the wrong reason, then there's no difference. It's just like having a 70-year-old in Parliament who's corrupt.
Yeah.
You will be as corrupt as them, and perhaps even worse.
So why did Njeri Maina vie and win the Kirinyaga County Woman Rep?
I always wanted to serve.
Motivation?
You know, I grew up watching Martha Karua, Benazir Bhutto, and Margaret Thatcher, and I did see that there was a gap in terms of service leadership, you know, people-centered leadership, and that is why I vied.
Yeah.
I always knew I'll end up in politics. It was always the path for me. I think the issue was, where do I start? Because then Kenyan politics is very, very financially inclined. So if you do not have the money, then winning is like, what do they say about the gate to heaven? It's very narrow.
Very narrow.
You really have to like be man, see how to get in.
Yeah.
But I do thank the people of Kirinyaga County, because I came to them as a young person and told them my agenda, told them that I am qualified, and they really did judge me on that basis and voted for me with more than 70% of the total votes cast. Yes.
You are one of the biggest defenders of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. You believe in him a lot.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I do think that with the second Deputy President, the thing with him is that there's no faces behind him. You know, what you see is what you get. There's a lot of conmanship in politics. You know, people will be, there's a lot of conniving and a lot of like plotting behind the scenes. But I think with Rigathi Gachagua, for the period I've known him, he's someone that you will be able to read on whether you're on the same page or not. You know, and I've seen that sometimes he's been misrepresented and misinterpreted, because we used to politicians telling us, oh, I'm going to do this, you know, packaging something in a very nice way as a PR gimmick. But, you know, he just tells you as it is. He just says it as it is, and perhaps that's why people call him the villager, because at Asema too, he'll just say it as it comes off. Yeah.
Someone would argue you did this for political survival. Now that, you know, Rigathi commands some following in Central Kenya, you did this to survive politically. Is that the
Factually, he does command a following, and there'd be nothing wrong or amiss with doing it for political survival. But I also remind Kenyans that I voted no for the finance bill.
Yeah.
Like, I took a detour from this government way before the impeachment came about. So for me, I think as a young person, it was a path that I couldn't walk any longer with this government. And I just felt a lot of uneasiness with a lot of the legislations we were passing. And from like, I think 6 months into government, you know, I was feeling a bit of unease. But for a young person, you really have to to pick the time to exit, you know, because it is very, there's a lot of intimidation that happens behind the scenes. So I don't think I could say factually I did it for the political benefit of it. You know, I did it, and then the political benefit now came about.
Okay. How about, what do you think is the future of those guys who are opposed to Rigathi Gachagua and they are from central Kenya? We know them.
They will have such an onerous task defending their seats, because at the end of the day, politics is local. All politics is local. And that is why you see perhaps in regions where Raila Odinga has a political following, that there are politicians who are loyal to him. But I do think also that 2027 politics will also be about, you know, you as a person, integrity, what have you delivered to the people. But 30% of the votes is normally given by just the local politics and what's happening, what's the popular party. So they will have such an onerous task. And, well, let's see. I mean, they'll talk to Wananchi, then Wananchi will decide what to do with them. Yeah.
Not so many people are contented with Kenyan politics and Kenyan politicians. You are a politician. What do you think is affecting or ailing our political, you know, climate and political scene?
I don't think much of myself as a politician. You know, I do think much of myself as an advocate who's serving. You know, you have, there are certain things you have to be a politician in Kenya.
Come on,
you know, you have
you
to
are
be
a politician.
No,
come on.
I don't think myself as such. Perhaps you view me as such, but I do not. You know, I don't do the conniving and like the plotting behind the scenes. Like I just really focus on delivering to the Kenyan people. But what I do think is that when I was in campus, I do recall I detested Kenyan politicians, you know, because I felt like they're very self-driven, and Parliament is also very individualistic.
Yeah.
So for me, when I got to Parliament, I decided the kind of person, I don't want to say, but the kind of person that I wanted to be,
the kind
in
of
my
politician you want to
capacity as
be.
a politician, okay?
Okay.
But I do think it's very disappointing because speaking in general, we do seem as a political class to not care really much about the people and to do what is in the best interest for them. And it is very unfortunate, because having traveled to like various countries and seeing how basic things work, and coming back home to see like basic things don't even work at all, there's no structure that exists, it's very disappointing.
So what's the problem with us as a country and our political space?
I do think it's our social fabric. You know, come to think of it, a politician is going to spend 100 million to get a county woman rep seat. You know, the salary for the 5 years is around 40 million. So where are you going to recoup the 60 million? It is money-driven politics. And the money comes from the politician. In countries that are developed like the UK, Canada, the US, the money comes from the people. So the people have the mandate to question the leaders, to hold them accountable. If a leader gives you 1,000 Kenya shillings so that you can vote for them, then they quote-unquote feel as if they have bought your vote. And perhaps that is why I am able to be a different kind of leader, because I did not dish out money to get voted in 2022. I really just sold my agenda. The funds that I used were in regard to maybe campaign merchandise, a bit of branding, and agents. So we do have a conversation to have with ourselves, even as Kenyans. Our politics seems to center around money, which is very unfortunate. Okay.
You say you are not a politician, but there's word in the streets that you are going for the Kirinyaga gubernatorial seat. Is that true?
Which street? Which street is that?
Is it true that you are vying for
Is it Tomboya Street, River Road? I'm very well acquainted with.
Kiangwashi Street in Kirinyaga.
Kiangwashi. I thought you'd say Kibingoti. That's interesting. Well, I haven't said I'm vying for gubernatorial position. You know, I do think perhaps it's people that think I am, because maybe they perceive me to be popular. And I do think that as a politician, you have to be very careful with, you know, moving from, especially as a young politician, from one seat to another, and a first-time politician. But let's see. You know, you just never say never in politics. But I haven't said that I'm vying. I haven't
you haven't
said
said, but
anywhere.
is this a thought you've entertained at some point?
Is it a thought I've entertained?
Yeah.
It's a thought that's there, like it is existing.
Okay.
It is.
So
I
you
do
are
not
going
have
for
to
that.
entertain it at the moment. You know,
Okay.
it can be for the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a woman rep, your colleague, Nairobi Woman Rep, Esther Passaris, is really facing it. Is really getting it rough with the voters in the county. Some of the people feel like she's drifted away from what they asked her to do in Parliament, and there are people who want to have her removed. What can you say about that?
I do think that we, as leaders, forget that sovereign power belongs to the people. Oftentimes, we think that we exercise this power by our own thinking and out of a right that is inherent, and it is not, because it is delegated power. We are representatives of the people. We are supposed to represent the voice of the people. And if the people of Nairobi feel perhaps that my good friend is not representing them well, it is within their rights. You know, if the people of Kirinyaga County felt today that I am not representing them well in Parliament, it would be within their rights to recall me as a member of Parliament. So I think it is a democratic process. And at the end of the day, we have to be held accountable by someone who is the Kenyan voter, whether it is now or in 2027 when we are seeking for elective posts.
Okay. Great, great. One of the seats in the country that is really seen to be troublesome or troubled is that of the deputy president. You are a colleague. What do you think about that seat as a leader and as someone who is working closely with Rigathi Gachagua?
I don't think I'd take it. I don't think I'd take it. You know, it seems as if it's something that's handed to you, and if you don't work within the parameters, then it is snatched from you. I don't think I would take it unless I have control of Parliament, because without influence in Parliament, you are quote unquote a puppet of the executive and the head of state. So I think it's a very slippery seat. You know, it is 1 minute you have it, the next you don't. So unless any deputy president, I'm certain in the future, will want to have control of Parliament or influence in Parliament to a point where maybe they would want to come in with their own political party, enter into maybe a coalition of sorts, and control some numbers on the floor of Parliament. Because if, let's say, for example, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua had around 100 plus members of Parliament, we would not have seen the light of day without impeachment. We all know it was shambolic, you know, it was politically driven. And most impeachments, if not all, the ones we've seen are politically driven. So it's a seat that I'd say for me, I don't think it's a seat that wields any political power. You have to be at the mercy of the president. Okay.
As a young politician, how do you balance between politics and personal life? Because politics is very engaging and you know, time consuming. How do you balance that?
I take time off, you know. I do try to like have dinner with friends once in a while, to do things I love like music, you know, and to Netflix and chill, of course, because sometimes you're so exhausted. Walking around is not an option.
Yeah. Talking of music, you sing actually, right?
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that.
I used to be a recording artist back in the day when I was in Nairobi University, but then of course law school is a bit strenuous with work, with the books and all that. So I did take a break and took a bit of a detour, joined politics. But I do think it's something that I want to do now. You know, I feel like I'm so old now, like to get back into the music scene. But I do think that for the wholesome perspective of life, like for the feel of it, the kick of it, I still do want to like get back to studio. You're gonna be seeing maybe an EP coming out soon, you know, and see where it goes. I mean, really, I've already succeeded in one field. So if I do not succeed in that department, I'll be okay.
So you're saying you're not abandoning music entirely?
No, I don't.
We are going to see something from you soon.
Yes.
When?
Very
Timelines?
soon. Maybe in 2-3 months. Yeah.
We can't wait. We can't wait. Your final thoughts, your final words as we finish?
I'd want the young people to figure out what they want to achieve in 2027. We have an opportunity to change the traction of this country, or an opportunity that we could miss and continue with the bad trend of politics and politicking, because I do feel like we do a lot of politicking than service delivery to wananchi. It seems to be what the status quo or the older class of politicians no, it seems to be in their DNA. I don't think they can change. And unfortunately, if we cannot shift in 2027, we're going to take another 20 years to have a shift. Yeah.